to Sugar Rush Live. It's great to have you here. And guess who I've got with me today? Mark Orr. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Nicole. How are you doing? It's absolutely awesome for us to be together again. I just love doing interviews with you, with you even, because it's business is difficult enough, but having fun in business is just such an absolute joy, and getting the opportunity to do that with you is just fabulous.
Oh, amazing. I have to say, I was actually out earlier in the park, but I was so looking forward to today and interviewing again. I didn't mind at all coming back. Now, Mark, obviously you and I know each other really well. Mark is my favorite video editor. For those of you who've watched the Wunderbar Marketing Efficiency Show, that's Mark editing them. But Mark, do you just want to introduce yourself before we start off with lots of tips for how to get really good videos on smartphone? So who are you, Mark Orr?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, I started producing and editing video 36 years ago. It is now nearly 37, which is an absolutely scary thought, to be perfectly honest with you. And that was long before, social media was around, YouTube didn't exist, and all the options that you had then were literally to broadcast to TV, which was part of what I was doing, and to author to VHS cassette. And so you were pretty limited, but as you can imagine, the costs involved in actually doing that were absolutely astronomical as well. And the speed at which it took you to actually get to that stage was very prohibitive for a lot of people. So yeah, cost and time was massively prohibitive. But then fast forward a number of years, and I actually started my own video production company a few years ago with my son, who was really into video and media stuff, and he's now off in sunny London, earning an absolute fortune doing his freelance thing down there. And that left me with a bit of a quandary. And I'd done quite a bit of work with a lot of local small businesses on some fully funded programs, and there was a bit of a disconnect in that they all could see the power of video. They all wanted to use video, obviously, on social media, but none of them could afford it. So I thought, well, there's got to be a solution to this. And because I enjoyed working with those types of businesses so much, I thought, well, the obvious choice is that I teach them how to do it properly, but using their smartphones. So hence, a few years ago, was born Pocket Video School, which I run now. And absolutely thoroughly enjoy doing that, and kind of taking all those skills that I've learned over the years and just helping people to DIY their video content, but also to up the level, because the playing field has become so much more basically entrenched with everybody trying it. So you need to elevate yourself and set yourself apart from everybody else, because it's just become even noisier with everybody jumping on the video bandwagon. So if you can take some of the elements of film and TV production and introduce them into your social media videos, then you really can set yourself apart from everybody else.
Oh, fantastic. And as you know, I'm really passionate about helping people to elevate their personal brand with social media, and video is just so powerful. So I love it what you just said about helping people to elevate their branding, but also to further improve their video, but actually at a really relatively small cost to them. So Mark, let's dive straight in. Videos on smartphones, do they work?
They do work, and they work for me for a couple of different reasons. One is what I'm going to kind of refer back to what I just mentioned about that speed of implementation. You can get a piece of video content up and live like we are doing today instantaneously. You don't have to have this great big huge truck parked at the side of the road with all these satellites connecting to everything to actually get a message. I haven't
showed you my outside. You're assuming I don't have a big truck.
Yeah, well, you've never mentioned it before, Nicole. So. So you can literally go live straight away, and you can get your message to your viewers, your potential viewers, really, really quickly. The costs obviously have come down dramatically, from spending thousands and thousands on a camera and all the associated equipment, which helps bloat the cost even more. What you can do now, because the majority of us are carrying around these kind of video studios in our pockets, smartphones, mobile phones, which means that you can literally be there with what you carry around with you, because that's the thing that everybody asks me. What's the best camera? What's the best camera to have?
Oh.
It's the one you've got with you, because
Yeah.
if you could carry a big camera around with you, but you could miss something important because it's happening then and there right in front of you, and you can't report it or be part of it. So yeah, having access to these really, really powerful pieces of kit that we carry around with us every day and run our businesses with, in a lot of instances, can also help you to obviously elevate that option of being able to get video out there quickly and effectively. The caveat with smartphones is that obviously the sensors in them are really, really small. So they need a lot of light to be able to work effectively and efficiently. So you have to bear that in mind, that if you are somewhere dark, then you're going to struggle to get good quality, as you've probably all seen when you've tried to do that.
So Mark, you really made a great pitch for using smartphones, and I couldn't agree with you. It's all about the camera you've got right with you. But there are a few tricks we want to share with our audience today, with our Sugar Rush Live audience today, to really help them to really further improve their current video styles on the smartphones. Now, interestingly, you mentioned light. Now, light is really, really, really important. What are your top tips for really maximizing your light, whether you're out and about or whether you're inside in your office?
If you're out and about, then I would always try, if possible, to eliminate being in direct sunlight. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Because everybody always says, make sure that the light is facing you and not behind you, because if it's behind you, you're going to end up being silhouetted and people won't be able to see you very well.
Yes.
If the sun's in front of you and at you, but it's really, really harsh, so say midday sun, you're going to squint. And you're not going to look at your best when you've got your eyes screwed up and your face is all screwed up.
Bit like us now.
So if you can't eliminate doing something in the midday sun and it is quite bright, then just find some shade, either from a building or from trees, and you'll notice a huge difference in the way the camera reacts to that light. It's going to be a lot softer, which means that you won't get all these dark lines underneath and you won't get harsh shadows, etc. So yeah, just things like that. Think about where you actually can film yourself, record yourself, or go live. And the best way to do it is make sure that the light's at you, but shaded slightly if you possibly can.
Okay. Do you know, I just recently run a video learning challenge for my Wonderstar coaching clients, because obviously video is so helpful with building your personal brand. And the lighting, your tips made such a massive difference to them, because it just really improved the video straight away. Now, I know, Mark, you also like talking about tech a bit. So we know we actually just need our smartphone and the lens needs to be clean. But is there any additional equipment which can really help us, perhaps with holding the phone or with the sound? I'm almost giving it away, but come on, Mark, what do you reckon?
Well, yeah, to be perfectly honest with you, audio is going to be one of the things that you really need to focus on the most. People will forgive bad visuals, but if you can't hear what you're saying, then you're on a hiding to nothing. You're just not going to get anybody watching your material. So just think about it from your own perspective as a consumer. If you can hear what somebody's saying, it doesn't matter so much if the visual isn't 100% perfect. Yeah, if they can't hear you, then you are wasting your time. So what I would always recommend to people is to get an external microphone, and probably one of the easiest ones for people to use is the tie clip or lavalier mic that clips to you. So clips to a blouse or a shirt or a t-shirt, etc. Plugs tight.
It's your trusted assistant. Yeah. Trusted assistant. This is my extension going into my iPhone smartphone, and here's my little microphone. And it does work really, really well. It makes a huge difference. And I think it was only like £10 or so on Amazon. So that's a great tip, Mark.
They're not expensive at all, but it will enhance your video quality or your production values massively. So yeah, if you can improve your audio, then always try and do that. You can get little shotgun microphones that will attach to a phone, but then you've got the added complexity of having to use a bracket to put the phone in and then add it to, which just gets a little bit cumbersome. So I would always recommend just a lavalier mic, a cheap lavalier mic that you clip on. It's going to make a huge difference. The other thing, obviously, I've just kind of related to it there, is holding the phone steady. because there is nothing worse than making your viewers seasick because your phone's all over the place and the image is all over the place. And with smartphones, you probably noticed that the camera focuses on your face.
Yeah.
And when you turn, the background turns and you stay directly in the middle, and it gives a really, really weird sensation to anybody who's viewing that kind of stuff. So you've got a couple of options there. You can use a tripod. So you can attach your phone to, you need an adapter, which there are loads of different types.
Yeah.
Again, from about £3 or £4 on our wonderful online retail store that everybody is aware of and knows and uses. And all it does is it's spring loaded. So you just clip it in and it attaches with a screw thread to a tripod, and it just makes obviously certain that the image is going to be still for when you do a piece to camera or if you're doing an interview with somebody. There are more complex pieces of equipment out there that you can use called gimbals, which are motorized, usually 2 or 3 axes, and they'll keep it constantly still. You're adding a bit of complexity in there, and obviously you're adding cost. Now, I can get a really, really good tripod that will extend to my height, which is about 6 foot. So it keeps the camera lens level with my eyes rather than looking up or looking down, so that I'm either looking down at you. You don't want that because that's condescending to your viewer. And you don't want them looking up your nose, etc. either. So getting your camera lens at eye level is always going to make a big difference as well. So a 6 foot tripod, again, about £30. So you're not talking a huge amount of money. But it will make a big difference to the actual quality of your footage. And even if you're not necessarily setting the tripod up, you could actually hold the tripod in front of you, and it'll give you a little bit extra stability because it's not directly on the axis of your hand or arm. And there are smaller ones as well that you can use, or you can use a selfie stick.
Yeah. Which, oh my goodness! And you look like a tourist.
Some people use. If you've got nothing else, then just use something like that, because we are really notoriously bad at being able to hold something steady in our hands. But when you extend it away from your hand a little bit, it's surprising the amount of shake that it eliminates from the axis of your arm, etc. So,
wow. Well, obviously, Mark didn't know this, but this is my little small favorite tripod. I take it everywhere with me because I can wind it around things. I can stand it up in front of me. Yeah, and it does really make a difference, and it's not too heavy in the suitcase. Now, Mark, I think what would be amazing if you could maybe share your favorite pieces of equipment with us, and we could put it in the show notes. Now, I purposely started with the tech, and because I wanted people to feel like, hey, these guys are really going to add value today. But I truly know one of the things really holding back people filming on their smartphone and recording and publishing it and not deleting it is actually confidence and the lack of confidence, because it doesn't feel natural in the beginning, would you say, to sort of look into the camera and talk to it like it's your best friend. So in your experience, Mark, what are the kind of tips you can share with us and our community today to really help them to work on their confidence?
You're right. Confidence is a huge barrier to a lot of people. You know, even if they've managed to overcome the tech issues, then it is just. And I'm exactly the same. When I first started getting in front of the camera, it was so outside of my comfort zone because I was used to being behind the camera. To be honest with you, there's no magic wand. You've just got to do it. However, you can do it in a safe environment. That means that you're not putting yourself out there to massive criticism to begin with, because some people might criticize you, but you tend to find that it's people close to you that criticize you, and they mean it with good intention quite often, but it's just to kind of help you. Nobody wants to see you fail, in all honesty. So what I would recommend or suggest is that you set up, if you want to do it on Facebook, you can set it up in a private group, and you can maybe add a couple of people that you know really well, who you know will give you constructive criticism. And if you have any little foibles or you've got any unusual habits that you're not aware of that you do when you're in front of a camera, like for instance, when I first started doing my stuff in front of a camera, I developed this annoying cough all the time, which was just, because it was a nervous cough. But I didn't realize I was doing it until I watched stuff back and people said, do you realize that you're actually doing that? Then I made a conscious effort to make sure that I wasn't doing it in the future. But if you're not aware of it, you don't know you're doing it, then you can't eliminate the issue. The other thing that I would recommend for people who maybe have a little bit more confidence and aren't too bothered about getting in front of the camera as much, but still are not quite 100% with it, is to use either Facebook or Instagram stories, because they are really, really good for making sure that you are succinct with your message, because you've only got 15 seconds for each clip. And they're only around for 24 hours, which means that there's no lasting legacy of you've said something that you shouldn't have done or you've completely messed it up. But that's a really good mechanism and platform to kind of get you used to doing it. But I think from, one of the biggest benefits of that is that you don't fill it full of fluff and filler because you've got to do it in 15 seconds. Otherwise, it just seems really disjointed. So, practice in that kind of environment is absolutely brilliant.
Love it. We've got a few viewers here, and I would love them just to tell us, are they already doing video? Are they doing it? I know we've got Ella here, which is fantastic. Ella Orr, much more social. And Ella is actually doing some video on LinkedIn. So Ella, do let us know how you've overcome your nerves. It'd be really, really helpful. And Ella's saying she definitely wants to have our links to our tech equipment because she's just on the roll at the moment with buying some tech. So Ella, don't you worry, we will share it. Now, Mark, I think those confidence building tips are really, really helpful. I know from my own experience, I've only started my video learning journey about 2 years ago, and I was absolutely terrified. So I really know what it feels like. Two things which really made a difference to me. So I was in one of these private Facebook groups, as you earlier mentioned, actually by Madeleine Sklar at the time. She was running a video challenge. And I was partnered with Kathy because we were both two of the visitors from the UK, so our time was kind of similar. And we just made videos for about 30 days. And we were both really busy running our businesses, but we just made time for it, which then sometimes meant we would just get out of bed. I hadn't even brushed my hair, or sometimes I had like wet dripping hair and I hadn't even brushed my teeth, not that you would know, but we would just record videos. And then you do that day by day. Slowly, your nerves kind of ease a bit more. It just kind of doesn't feel as stressful as it was in the beginning. And then the other thing, which is actually something Ian Anderson-Gray shared with me, which I think is really, really powerful. I know, Mark, you joined us on the interview a couple of weeks ago on the Sugar Lash. He said, look, actually, Nicole, just remember why you're doing this. Why are you trying to make videos? What is your reason? And those moments when you feel really low, just remember it. So I thought that was a great tip. Now, jumping on for confidence, I think we covered that. We talked about the lights, which is great. Now, questions I get quite often, I also had it from one of my Wunderstars coaching clients. What do we do if we wear glasses? How can we manage reflections? How can we minimize them?
One of the best things to do is when you are getting some new glasses, which is the optimum time to do it, is to ask for the anti-reflective coatings to be added. And they don't cost a huge amount. I think the last time I got mine done, they were about £15, so not a huge amount. If you are going to use natural light, then I would always try, say, for instance, that you're filming in front of a window or you're doing a live in front of a window. If you stand head on, you're likely to see the reflection in your glasses from the window. If you turn slightly so that you're at a slight angle, say maybe between 30 and 45 degrees, then it will reduce the amount of reflection. If you're using artificial lights, then one of the best things to do is to get them as high as you can above you. So for instance, I'm using artificial light in my studio here. So if I tilt my head up, you can just see the lights coming in there now.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the majority of the time you don't see them even when I'm moving my head around because I've got them so high. And obviously it helps hugely because I've got the anti-reflective coatings on mine, which also mean that you can't see the reflection from the monitor that's in front of me either. So two things there that you can do, or three things if you include the natural light one. If you're using artificial light and you can't get them really, really high, then I would suggest putting them as wide as you can. So the ideal is about 45 degrees from you, but if you're still getting reflection, then move them further apart if you can.
Okay.
obviously limited by the amount of room that you've got, and I know that you sometimes have this issue in your small office environment that you
I don't
set.
know what you mean. I've got the penthouse office here in London, clearly. You know how successful I am.
It will happen, Nicole. It will happen.
Of course, you know. Actually, we've got Andrew and Peter saying hello as well. They're saying, cool tip, Mark. Need to put our lighting on a box. Absolutely, just to really have it at the right level. Mark, we have a question I often get from my Wunderstars, and it's something I struggle with myself a little bit, just to get it into my head. It's the whole framing. And you have such an amazing way of explaining it. So what are your tips for framing? Because look, I could be here and it is not ideal, right? Or I could be down here, or I could be really here. Sorry, no one, my skin isn't too clear today. It's the sunshine. So Mark, what are your top tips for framing?
To be perfectly honest, you and I are actually breaking the rules slightly today. But,
Ooh,
you know, that's
risky.
because we have got something called headroom, which is basically the amount of room between the top of our heads and the edge of the frame. Ideally, you just want a very, very small amount, because what you've got to remember is when you're creating video, you want the viewer to focus on you and what you're saying and what your message is. So the bigger you are in the frame, the more chance there is they're going to focus on you and what you are actually saying to them. So you see lots and lots of videos where people are like literally way down here. And I do remember some friends in the marketing space who took the mickey out of themselves because they did loads of videos like that where they were just completely framed incorrectly, and it was just hilarious. If you can imagine that, obviously this is slightly different because of the way that we're framed being side by side, but on a normal video, if you're landscape, if you imagine that you were playing noughts and crosses and you had a noughts and crosses grid, so you've got two vertical lines, and then you've got two, I can never do this right, two horizontal lines going across that way. That's really difficult doing it backwards. And you imagine that on the top line is going to be probably about a third of the way down the actual frame of the camera image.
Yeah.
Your eye line should be about that third. Now, as I said, on this particular style of video that we're doing here, we're slightly off. So I should really be...
Yeah. You should,
kind of,
Mr. Orr. Look, I'm standing. I can adjust it. See? Perfect German. So everyone, for best practice, this is where you should be, ideally. Yeah. But we do, it's not always going to work out. So if you just aim for best practice, Mark, say that again, so 2/3, and your eyes are where the 2 and 1/3 meet.
Yes, well, not necessarily where they meet, but that line that runs across the top line is kind of where your eye line should be. And you will notice a difference when you kind of line it up when you're doing it. You'll see that you're filling the frame a lot more, which means that people will hopefully take more notice of you because you're the main thing in the frame.
Yeah, you connect better with the audience, right? And the other thing I really struggled with in the beginning, and I've seen it with my Wunderstars as well, is to really figure out where the camera is on your phone. And I know it sounds really obvious. It wasn't to me, so it's right here. So you always really have to look into the camera if you're filming on your smartphone, which is what we're talking about today, to really connect with your audience. And if you just look back at one of your later clips where you haven't really focused on the camera, you can see there isn't as much of a connection. So I know, Mark, you in the past have said to me to even like put like a little sticker here, which I have done. I have taken it off by now. But yes, focusing on the camera and doing the framing. Oh, Mark has disappeared, which is always really helpful. I'm sure he'll come back really soon. Ella is just saying, oh, yes, he's being really fancy. Yeah, he's got it.
There you go. You see, that's exactly what you were talking about.
And I thought you disappeared.
All that is, no. All that is just a hole punch reinforcer that you get from a stationery store. Yeah. And then what I normally do is I just color it in, stick it over the top. Now, this is mainly for the front-facing or selfie camera, just to remind yourself where you should actually be looking to make sure that you're getting eye contact with your viewers.
Mark, take it off. I'm getting the giggles here. I'm just taking a print screen. This is what I'm going to post on social. Here's me interviewing Mark Orr. No, okay, but in all seriousness, because we want to add lots of value for people, I do appreciate people sticking around because obviously it's hot outside, but it's just really going to help you with your videos. Now, one of the other things is, Mark, clearly video sucks energy, right, when we're talking. So what are your top tips for helping us to avoid a monotone kind of tone of voice, which is not going to be very engaging? I mean, people are not going to stick around. So what can we do?
You're exactly right. And it's, again, you know, I hold my hands up and say, I've suffered from this a lot over the years. And again, there's no real magic wand to it. You've just got to do it. You've got to practice, practice, practice. Now, everybody, when they first start making video, will see that it's not 100% how they want it to be, but then over time, you will get better. But one of the things that you can do is just dial up your energy and your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So instead of where you would normally talk at maybe about an 8, if you can dial it into kind of a 10 or 11,
Yeah.
when you watch it back, it will actually seem natural to you rather than being, and when I say dialing in, I don't necessarily mean the volume, I just mean your energy levels, you know. So it might sound really, really bizarre to you, but honestly, your viewer will see it and it will look really natural. And even when you watch it back yourself, you'll probably think, actually, that doesn't sound as Mickey Mouse or stupid as I thought it did, you know. So yeah, just getting the energy levels up. And if you're pre-recording video, the thing to remember about that is that you can't necessarily keep your energy levels up to that kind of level right the way through. So just record in segments. So maybe it's like a sentence, 2 sentences, or maybe you can learn a paragraph and keep the energy level for a paragraph. But I would say probably maybe 2 or 3 sentences at the most, and then just record all of your piece in just little bits. Obviously, you're adding a bit of complexity because it means that you've got to edit these things together. But you know, you will notice a huge difference in actually how it comes across to everybody.
Yeah. I think what we do today, we're going to keep it really basic and just helping people to pick up their smartphones and share some great content because we really want to equip them today with the skills for that. And Ella was just saying, I'm always worried about my face being too close to the camera. Actually, what Ella, I think you actually can't be too close. I mean, obviously, I could go like really close on that. It would be a little bit scary. But, you know, the closer you are and you focus on that to camera, it really connects with your audience. And that's why video works so well, because if you have a bit of a babbly personality, which I know Ella does, is really engaging to listen to. So Ella, keep going. You are definitely not too close. And look, if you are worried about being too close, put 2 links to 2 different clips in the Go With Pro membership group. And we would love to give you some feedback in there. All the other members, Mark is in there as well. So let's do that. Now, Mark, are you ready for the next question? So we dealt about being monotone, or not being monotone, I should say. Now, structure. What tips can you give us in terms of structuring our video? Because we know people have such a short attention span, don't we? And I'm sure our replay viewers, they would completely agree with that, and our live viewers. So what are your top tips on structuring your video?
It is a huge issue for a lot of people in not knowing how to engage the viewers. And one of the things that I would always say to everybody who's creating any form of video content, no matter whether it's pre-recorded or live, is don't use an intro, but tell people in the first few seconds what it is that they can expect from your video. So for instance, I would maybe start by saying, in today's video, I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to use smartphones to the best ability to get the best quality, etc. Something like that. And then if you want to keep people watching, and this is really good with like tips videos, is if you say, and you won't believe what number 3 is, that means that they want to then know what number 3 is. So you would do all of that in the first sort of 10 to 12 seconds of your video. So they know when they land on your video, yes, this is something I'm interested in hearing about, but I also want to hear about tip number 3, because that sounds really intriguing. It's a technique that called an open loop, and it's something that news programs use really effectively. So when the news program comes on, they'll tell you what's coming up in the program, and they'll always keep one of the best pieces to a little bit later on. They won't put it at the beginning of the piece, so that it keeps you hooked, keeps you there, keeps you interested, and hopefully you'll watch all of the content, which is great from a lot of algorithmic
you said that so well.
issues. Yeah, when I said it, I wasn't sure if I'd said it right at all. So
Excellent. So I love these tips. So basically come in straight away with the value you're going to offer. Don't waffle. It's certainly something I'm still working on. And the other thing I always say to my Wonder Stars, we've got to figure out, where does this video really fit in with your whole marketing? What do you want to achieve? What journey do you want to take your viewers on there? So for example, if you like to get more signups on your email list, I know everyone needs to grow their audience. Make sure that you have a call to action which refers to your email list, and just be clear up front what you're going to do. And then I say planning. I know I'm a bit German, but you don't have to go overboard, you know. Sometimes all you need is a few post-it notes. If you just say, this is what I'm going to share, this is the hook, these are the 3 points, and here's the CTA. But do practice it, because at the end of the day, I mean, I know Mark and I, we always have fun doing these videos, but we're also doing it to promote our services. And so we have to think about beforehand, what is it we want to get out of? So we do invite you to plan the structure of your videos. Now, Mark, I've got 2 more questions. Oh my God, you won't believe how great the second one is. So the next question, but wait till the next one. This question is all about, what are your top tips actually for promoting your videos? Do you know, because it's all great us going on video, whether it's live or pre-recorded. What have you learned? What works really well for getting eyeballs onto your videos?
Well, obviously, you know, splashing it across your social media channels is the first thing to do, because there's more chance of other people seeing it and potentially sharing it or making comment about it, which means that, you know, their viewers and their fans and people connected to them are going to see it. But then if you find that you get loads and loads of engagement and you get loads of shares in a particular piece of content, then that's sending a signal to you to say, well, this is obviously resonating with my audience, which means that it could resonate with a wider audience. So you could potentially spend a little bit of money on the paid advertising side of one of the platforms just to help spread the word a bit more. But again, it all relates back to what you said before, which is, why am I doing this thing in the first place? What is it I want to achieve from this piece of video content? And if it is just a subscriber on YouTube, then obviously, you know, that's great. The more people who see it, the more opportunity there is that they are actually going to subscribe. But they won't if you don't tell them to do it. So you have to say, you know, if you like this content, subscribe to my video. And then the more likely to see, subscribe to my channel, the more likely to see future content. So using paid promotion, but don't use paid promotion on every single piece, because you're not going to get the benefit from it. But you can certainly get it from pieces of content that you can see are actually resonating with people, getting loads of engagement. And if people are starting to share it, then obviously you've ticked a box somewhere along the line for a lot of people. Now, most of the platforms will have the opportunity to use paid traffic. So YouTube has a great platform. Facebook obviously has a really good platform. LinkedIn is starting to, you know, understand video now. And the, you know, there's opportunities there to kind of use the paid side of it. But again, be very, very cautious about which pieces you are actually doing, and just test it out, really, I suppose, more than anything. But I think a really good technique is to do things like this, do interviews with other people, so you're tapping into their audience as well. So if you can elevate your authority and your credibility by appearing with somebody else who's got an audience, then obviously you've got a huge opportunity for people to then engage with you and become part of your audience, as long as you're providing value. And if you're giving a way for them to connect with you, say, for instance, you've got a lead magnet that is related to what you're talking about, we'll come to that later, then obviously you've got the chance to tap into their audience as well. But it's still valuable to the person who's interviewing you and their audience, you know, as long as you're giving enough stuff to them that they can take away and implement and use, then you shouldn't have an issue in building and leveraging from other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Andrew and Peter just got a really interesting questions, because I've just encouraged some questions in the comments here. And Andrew is saying, or Peter saying, when should someone hire an editor?
As soon as you can, basically. Because what you're going to find is that when you create video, obviously pre-recorded video, when you create it, you are going to find that it takes a hell of a lot longer to edit something together than it does to actually record it in the first place. And using somebody who's a good video editor can also make your brand and your videos stand out from everybody else, because they can use techniques and they can use lots of different graphics and additional elements that make your video more engaging. Because one of the things that you want to do is obviously you want to keep people watching what it is that you're doing and watching your content. So if you can reset people's attention span by having things happening on the screen all the time, then you're going to keep people watching it for a hell of a lot longer. Because it doesn't matter how good your message is, if you're just a talking head, there's going to be a point where people are going to go, yeah, it's great what he's saying, but I'm not stimulated visually. So you need to be able to get to the point where something's happening every few seconds that just resets people's attention span and keeps them hooked into your video. So I would always say to anybody, as soon as you can afford to do it, or even, it depends on what it is that you want at the end of the day. Where do you want to take this video journey of yours? If it's something that is something that you really are focused on, then I would say get somebody to help you with the editing as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Now, you don't necessarily have to do that through a paid medium. You could actually do a barter system with somebody that you could help them with an element of their business, depending on what you're doing, to get them to come on board. But do it as soon as you can, I think.
Yeah.
What you will also find is that as you become more successful and you become busier off that success, that you're going to have even less time to be able to edit your videos, because it does take a hell of a lot longer.
Well, from my personal experience, I think editing my videos adds so much to it, because as you said, it just adds interest and personality. And people are forever saying to me, oh, Nicole, I love it because I think of lollipops, you got all these bright animations. And it just adds that kind of level of personality, which I want my videos to have, because for me, it's all about making people feel a certain way and for them to think, oh yeah, I'd love to work with Nicole. And I know from one of my Wunderstars, so he's a physio, and we are starting his video journey because that's his audience and that's what we're focusing on. And he's great recording videos on the spot, he's very, very good. But with his edited videos, we can add so much more. We can really take the viewer on a journey, and we can have like a B-roll and have another clip of him showing the exercises. And we wouldn't have been able to do that with just doing it ourselves. So I think if people can afford it, it's well worth doing if video is indeed your medium. Now, Mark, if that's okay, I just want to bring in a couple of questions from the audience. And this is Ella here. She's saying, I know it seems obvious, but can you just go over which way to hold the phone, landscape or portrait, for smartphone videoing? Is it the same for all platforms?
Yes, this is a rabbit hole, to be perfectly honest with you. As a videographer, I would always have said it has to be landscape. So obviously it's got to be wider than it is tall, and it has to be in the right ratio for it to work properly. However, some of the newer platforms have obviously realized that that's not necessarily the natural way for people to record video on their phones, especially. So some of the platforms will work better with portrait video or square video. So it very much depends on where your piece of content is going to go as to which way round you record. Now, there is a slight caveat in that you can still record in landscape mode, and then in the editing process, post-production, you can put that landscape image into a square template, so it's got some text or the title at the top, and you could have captions at the bottom. So in that way, you're still getting a square video, or you can get a portrait video, but the actual video content side is actually still filmed in landscape. So it's a difficult question to answer because it depends where you're going to put it.
I think that's key, though, isn't it? It really does depend on where you're going to put it. I always say know straight away which platform you're going to use it for, and really optimize it for that platform. I think repurposing is great, and I would encourage it with video as well. But do just think about first, am I going to be on Facebook? Am I going to be lucky enough to be on LinkedIn Live? Or am I using Instagram? Whatever platform it might be. And make it specific to that platform, because you really want to have the maximum impact on that platform. Mark, just to add to that, you kind of covered it, hence our clever questioning, obviously. Andrew Peter is saying, what are your thoughts on vertical? I think they're trying to get me to say a V word, on vertical versus horizontal video, which you kind of covered, unless you want to elaborate on it.
I suppose the only thing to also consider is really where people are consuming your
Yeah.
content. Excuse me. The majority of people now are watching video on the smartphones. Now, is it natural for somebody to take the phone? You know, normally they would watch it like that, but are they going to watch a video like that?
If they're lying
Possibly.
down in bed, maybe.
You know, it just depends.
Yeah.
Again, things like IGTV, obviously they started out and it was only portrait, and now they've introduced landscape video. So they've obviously realized that there is no set kind of parameter that says it has to be filmed in this particular way. YouTube have introduced a resizing mechanism in their player, so it will fit to, or a lot of content will now fit to whatever device you're actually watching it on. So it'll fill the screen, whether it's filmed in landscape, portrait, or square. So the jury's out a little bit to say film in a particular way and stay only in a particular way. But what I would probably say is you need to have material or content that fits each platform. So don't necessarily take one piece of content and make it fit each one. Record a different piece of content for each platform, and you'll probably get a better kind of overall strategy in there. So you could take a teaser, a tiny little bit, and create it for Square that goes on one of the platforms that predominantly uses Square. But the role of that particular piece of content is to take them somewhere else to watch the main form of content. I suppose what I'm trying to say is think about the platforms and what they're actually made for. There are only really two main platforms where people go to watch video, and that is YouTube and Vimeo. So the other ones, I would always say it's snackable content. It's not long content on these other platforms, and that's been proven by lots of people recently doing tests and finding out the stats behind the back end systems. So just think about, you know, if you're on Facebook, you're not on Facebook to purposely going to look for video. But if you're on YouTube, that's what you're going to do. You're going to watch a video. So just bear that in mind in the back of your head and your strategy about what you're actually trying to achieve with it. If that makes sense.
Totally, because whilst on the face of it, it might seem like on Facebook it's much easier to get engagement, but when you then compare the viewing figures, the retention figures, you know, on YouTube, that's much greater. Now, interestingly, Ella has just brought up LinkedIn. So Ella at the moment posts her videos very beautifully on LinkedIn. You know, she's using subtitles, which is great because the majority of people, when they watch videos on LinkedIn, they're usually in an environment where they can't have sound, so that's brilliant. Do we have any tips for LinkedIn videos?
Again, it very much depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve. Not necessarily a tip, but a don't do is don't put a YouTube link on LinkedIn and expect people to watch it.
Absolutely, stay on the platform.
Stay on the platform. Always upload natively, which means directly to the platform, the piece of content that you want. And again, you can consider taking people away to a different platform to watch the actual video content, but using a snippet video to get them to do that, so that you're kind of teasing them. Again, LinkedIn are so new with video that it's going to constantly change and iterate. One of the big issues for me with LinkedIn content is that there's an awful lot of rubbish on there because people are testing it and playing around with it, but they're not necessarily thinking about it strategically and how they're going to use it and the best way to use it. So if you can do it in a way that stands above everybody else, then you are probably going to have a better long-term effect on your content than somebody just going in there and creating video for the sake of creating video, which is the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's one thing when you're getting started, right, and you're doing it to build up your confidence, but it's nicer when people take that step further and really think about their audience first. What questions am I likely to get from my audience? How can I relate that to the service that I'm offering? How can I stand out in a good way? And then really give them that information in a quite concise way, particularly for LinkedIn. I feel maybe sort of 3 to 4 minutes is actually enough. What I like to do on LinkedIn, so my main channel is YouTube. I think it's all about focusing. So I want to grow my YouTube subscribers. So anyone who's watching it today who's not already a subscriber, please subscribe to that channel, like it and comment it. I would really appreciate it. But what I do on LinkedIn, I just have a teaser interview. So I will say, do you like to find out about so-and-so? Come back and come onto YouTube. So I slightly break the rules on that one on purpose. But I just think it's so important to lead people to one platform and to really have your goal in mind of what you want to achieve. Now, Mark.
I was going to say, just to kind of add to that, I think what you've got, and I mentioned it before about snackable content.
Yeah, and Ella loves that.
Yeah, think about how you as a consumer use those platforms. So everything that has a news feed, you are flicking through the news feed. Mm-hmm. So you're not there to watch something for ages. Whereas the way YouTube is set up, yes, it's got a search function, but it's not necessarily a news feed as such, because you're asking it to show you content related to whatever you've typed in. If that makes sense, it's that getting in front of somebody, but teasing them to go and watch it on a platform where everything else is set up and geared around video content, as opposed to lots of different messages and lots of different types of content that you're being bombarded with. So you're not struggling to fight against all the other types of material that's in there.
Fantastic. And Mark, I promised a sweet killer question right towards the end. As it happens, you kind of have answered it. Not that you knew I was going to ask it, but I wanted to ask you, so right now, with all the current trends and the excitement around video, which platform do you reckon should people really focus on? Now, obviously, it depends on their audience mostly, but what platform do you think right now works best for promoting your business, your personal brand using video?
Well, when you consider the types of platforms that we have available, because ultimately you want evergreen content, so something that's going to stay around for a while, that people can constantly find for years to come. You can get traffic from years to come. I would always say if it's going to be video, then I would definitely say YouTube is the place to be. YouTube was set up predominantly for video content and will be that way for as long as I can foresee in the future. And again, as I said, you're not fighting against other types of content, and you're not fighting against that snackable kind of nature that people have when they're in these other types of platforms. So for me, it's always going to be, if you're going to do video, you have to at least have YouTube in the mix somewhere along the line, so that people can find stuff. Because again, looking at the likes of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, the search features in them aren't particularly good, and trying to search for video content is it's a nightmare, and you just can't do it. So whereas think again about a video search engine is YouTube.
Totally.
So
and it also really
what I'm trying to say, Nicole, is it's YouTube.
Yeah, I know, and it's great, isn't it? Because it also helps SEO. I totally couldn't agree more with you. Mark, clearly you and I could share so many more tips, and we will do this again, whether it's how to get on YouTube and really rock it on YouTube, how to work with edited videos, where it all fits into your strategy. But Mark, I know you have an amazing guide for making great videos on the Android smartphone. Now, can you share it with us?
No, absolutely not. It's a secret.
No.
I'm never going to share it again. No, obviously that is not the case. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here in the first place. So my website actually has a guide that covers both Android platform and iOS, and basically is a 12-step guide to getting good quality footage from.
Oh, he's disappeared. I don't know, guys, if he's disappeared for you as well. What we're going to do, we're going to put on the show notes the link to this amazing downloadable guide. I actually still refer to it because there's tips and tricks in there to really elevate your videos on the smartphone. So I want to make sure that you get them. And also, if you have any more questions, both Mark and I will come back to here. Because we love helping you all, getting greater videos and really helping you to promote your personal brand. I'm just going to take off Mark while he is not looking too pretty, you know, his eyes are closed. Must have connection issues. Now, this is bringing me to the end of this episode of Sugar Rush. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. I'm going to be taking a summer break. Woohoo! So what I would love you to do is to actually sign up for my Sugar Rush so that you will be the first to know when I'm going live again. Because I absolutely love sharing tips on personal branding, social media, video making with my audience here on YouTube. So do sign up. It's lollipopsocial.co.uk/the Sugar Rush. I won't bombard you, but I will just send you the occasional tips, and you will be the first to know when the next Sugar Rush Live is going live again. Thank you so much for watching. Replay viewers, live viewers, any questions you have, let us know in the comments, and have an amazing day. Bye.